Hey, I'm Srini, the creator of Maximize Your Output with Mem. Are you overwhelmed by the thought of migrating your notes from Notion into Mem? Well, in this video, we're going to demystify the process, and I'm going to show you two different methods, a simple method and an advanced method, and use this as an opportunity to declutter your knowledge base to make sure that you're building your second brain in a way that's actually useful. Now, let's get to the tutorial.
So what I want to do in this video is talk to you about how to migrate notes from Notion to Mem. And one of the reasons that you might want to do it in this way is some of you probably noticed when you use the native import features that are built into Mem, when you want to import things from other apps, the notes don't come over perfectly formatted. But the other thing that this is a great opportunity for is to purge. So let's talk about the first step. So the first step in this process is to actually get everything organized inside of Notion. And personally, I think this is a great opportunity to purge because there's a lot of probably irrelevant stuff that you might have accumulated over the years that you don't necessarily need to bring into Mem, but there are also going to be notes and other things that are relevant that you might want to bring in. So one of the things I recommend is to create a specific page inside of Notion with the goal of exporting all of this information into Mem. And the first option for doing this is what I call the simple option. And for the simple option, all you're going to do once you've created this page where you have different areas, and if we drill down into here, you'll see we have under our areas a blog post editorial calendar, a reading list under our resources, and then a couple of different projects. Now, the way that you do this is you'll just go to export, and under here, what you're going to choose is Markdown and CSV. What I would recommend also is that you pick no images or files, include the subpages, otherwise you will just get this page, and don't create any folders for the subpages, because what you're going to do is you're going to organize all of this inside of Mem. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to just export this data into a particular folder. And if you give it just a sec here, we will be able to save it into that folder. So I'm going to go here into Dropbox and I'm going to go into my areas of responsibility. You can see I have a folder called test data. And what I am going to do is save this into the folder titled Simple Notion Export. Now, if I go over here to Simple Notion Export, what you'll see is that it comes out as a zip file because of the way that Notion does this. So when you unzip this, the other thing you'll notice is that the files have these weird numbers on the end of them. Those are the unique identifiers for the database structure of Notion. So this is optional, but one thing you could do is you could use a bulk rename tool and rename the files, or you could just import them into Mem as is. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to delete all of these CSV files since Mem doesn't have CSV files anyways. And what we're going to do for this is we are going to move some of these files. We'll take just a couple of examples here and grab them so that we can put them into the specific Dropbox folder that is going to tell Zapier that anytime there is a new Mem in the simple migration folder, then I want you to create a new Mem from the markdown file inside of here. Now, what we need to do is we need to build a Zapier automation that is going to tell Zapier anytime there is a new Mem in a specific Dropbox folder or a new file in a specific Dropbox folder, then we want to create a Mem from that file. So what we're going to have to do here is choose the event, new file and folder, and then you're going to connect your Dropbox account, depending on whatever it is. And then we're going to go into the folders and we're going to look at which folder this is in. And so basically what we need to do is we need to say this file is inside of one of these folders. And you can see here, there's the test data folder. And then within the test data folder, we have a simple migration folder. And that's where some of the files that we imported over are living right now. So what this is doing is it's telling Zapier that, hey, when there's a new file in this folder, that's the trigger. And using that trigger, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new Mem. And you can see here, it basically gives us all the various file text. So we're just going to go ahead and continue with that selected record. And we're going to choose Mem from here. And then what we're going to do is we are going to say, create a new Mem. And what we'll do is we will actually use the name of each file as the title of our Mem note. And so I'm going to go ahead and press continue there. And the way that you want to do this is I like to give every file name a H1 tag or every note. So that way it ends up being named with that. And then you can choose what information you want to bring in from here. And so in this case, what we want to do is we just want to bring in the actual file text. And we can see here that it's somewhere down here. So you'll have to scroll through here and see where the text is. And sometimes, it might take a little bit of searching. So there you can see that the file text is there. And so what we're going to do is we are just going to then press continue. And you can see here that it's giving us a title with this, and it's going to give us this text. And then we're going to go ahead and test this action. And if you give it a few seconds here, what will happen is that it will send this to mem. Now let's go back to mem. And sometimes there's going to be a slight delay here in terms of getting this information in. And right there, you see the task that we have imported into mem based on whatever file was in that folder. Now, as I mentioned before, you can see here it comes in with this funny file name, but you can actually rename the files on your own later. And then what you do is you would just move all of the various files that you have into that Dropbox folder and import all of your notes from Notion into mem, and then they would show up looking a bit cleaner. Now, let's look at the more advanced option, which will allow you to do some organizing in advance. So for the more advanced option of this, what you're going to do is effectively just repeat the step that we did, but you're going to repeat it for projects, areas, resources, and tasks. And the downside of this is that you have to build a Zap for every one of these, but the upside is that you're going to get to do a bit of your tagging inside of mem in advance. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to export this project page. And this is something you'll repeat for each one of the pages. And again, what we want to do is choose everything. And I would suggest that you don't create folders and subfolders because that is going to make this a lot more complicated. But in this case, what we're going to do is basically follow this same process again, the same way we did before, except this time what we're doing is we are moving this to a different folder. And we're going to call this our advanced import. So now you can see here, again, we've got our advanced Notion export, but what's going to look different this time is that we've only exported one specific page, which is our projects. Now, again, we get all these CSV files. So what we're going to do in this case is we're going to delete all the CSV files again. And what we're then going to do is we're going to move a couple of these files into the advanced export section. So we're going to basically look at the advanced migration. Now, if you look under the advanced migration, I've already broken this up into projects, areas, and resources. So what I want to do is take the data from the advanced export, go ahead and just copy it. And then I'm going to put this into projects. The upside to doing this is that we know that every one of these notes is related to our projects. So we could then tag them as projects in advance. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Zapier and we are going to build a similar Zap to the one we just did. And the only difference this time is that we're going to have to create a separate Zap for every one of the different areas. And you can even get more granular and actually create specific Zaps for projects. Depending on how much information you have and how many projects you have, this can be something that becomes very time consuming, but building some of these Zaps will actually save you a lot of time in terms of organization. So what we're going to do this time is we're just going to change the folder, and instead of the advanced migration folder, simple migration folder, we're going to go into the advanced migration folder here, and we're going to pick our projects folder. And then inside of that projects folder, we have all the test data that we want to import into mem. And so we're going to tell it to find new records just because it's a new folder. And so what it will then do is search for any of the files that are inside of there. And so you can see here that we basically got review research results as one of the things. And then here's the file text. So we're going to go ahead and move on with this. And then we're going to follow this same process again. But what's going to be different here is the fact that we can actually use the specific file name or the folder name as a tag. So in this case, we know for a fact that it is in our projects folder. So what we can then say is, let's just go ahead and add the tag projects to this. And that way, when we bring this into mem, it's already tagged in advance and we don't have to do any organizing inside of mem. So again, we're going to go ahead and just continue. We're going to retest our action. And what we'll see here when we go into mem is that actually already gets a projects tag, which is right there. And what you're going to do basically is you'll just repeat this process for each of your different areas, each of your different resources. And if you're doing projects, because projects and tasks are usually linked together in a database, you don't actually have to do them separately. And this saves you a little bit of time. Now, if you wanted to get a bit more advanced with this, one thing you could do is you could actually create specific folders for every single project and then export each individual project into those appropriate folders. And then that would allow you to basically tag all of your projects in advance, all of your resources in advance. So basically, it's just the same process for all 4 of these things. And the main advantage of this more advanced option is that it allows you to do some of the tagging and categorizing in advance. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below.